33. So we're calling the meeting to order at 1:33. Beth, could you do roll call?
Austin,
Here.
DiDonato,
Here.
Dilger. I see a thumb.
Yes, here.
Dombrowski,
Here.
Jacobson.
Here.
I see Catherine Limmer.
Here.
Thank you. And Rosenthal.
Here.
For CCS, we have Rebecca Malinowski and Beth Stonebringer.
Thank you. Any additions to the agenda? Hearing none, we'll go into public comment. Is there any public here to comment? Don't see any, but did you receive any emails or anything like that, the public comment? Okay. I would, if anyone feels that they're able to make a motion to approve the minutes of the January 21st, 2022 meeting, this would be a good time to do so.
I will make that motion. Jeannie from Palatine.
And a second, please.
Second.
Any
Well-
discussion? Rosenthal, sorry. Is there any discussion on the minutes? If not, could we do a roll call for that as well, please?
Austin,
Yes.
DiDonato,
Yes.
Dilger. Dombrowski,
Yes.
Jacobson,
Yes.
Limmer,
Yes.
and Rosenthal.
Yes.
Thank you.
Great. So the minutes are approved, all saying aye. For number 6, do we want to split this up into 2 voting items, or is this 1 voting item usually, Rebecca?
We have done it both ways in the past. I'm comfortable with one, but if we needed to make any changes to anything, then it might be easier to do 2 separate ones.
Okay, well, let's discuss first, and then we can make motions. So and if we decide we need to split it up, then we can decide at that point. So let's talk about 6A, the budget. Thank you so much for the explanation, the narrative attached to it. So what would you like to show us, Rebecca?
I just pulled it up for you to see, but we don't need to. I would say at our last meeting, we talked about the personnel line. So the amount here includes a 4% increase. And then I also went back through the insurance benefits and we always have like a cushion in there in case someone changes elections. But I did reduce the cushion a little bit because I sometimes do like a cushion on my cushion and I get to the airport 3 hours early. So I do that sometimes in the budget as well. So I did knock that down a little bit as well. And then just the rest of it was really just double checking some numbers. And then the development fund, I'll get to in a second. I did want to comment. I know I have to reword the narrative portion. I don't think it was very clear. So I have here proposed keeping the overall billings line flat from last year to this year. However, you'll notice that the spending the estimated expenditures has increased. And that is because we're in kind of a weird spot with Warren Newport. We had hoped we'd have a commitment from them that they were joining by now. And as of the last budget meeting, we thought we would have that. So some costs associated with Warren Newport are worked into the expenditures, but I have not included them in the billings. If they were to not join, we just simply would not expend those funds. And this way we're not billing the libraries for the funds ahead of time, but like the numbers are there. So then, later it's a little bit less messy. Again, my narrative was not super clear on that. Jeannie called yesterday. She's like, what are you talking? Great question, Jeannie. So, we are running at a little bit of a deficit, but as you can see, I have the guidelines from the fiscal accountability policy, and we'd be kind of right in the middle of our targeted range.
Jeannie, you had a question?
Yeah, I actually had a question over on the overview page before you went to the operating fund.
Which
Oh. No, okay, maybe it is this page. When you were talking about the benefits, like health insurance, where
Oh,
was that?
So we have a personnel tab here.
Yeah, that's where you were.
Mhm.
So your percentages on the far right are not looking at this year's numbers. Those
No,
are,
I thought of that this morning while I was eating breakfast. I was like, I don't think I updated those.
yeah, so I think going throughout the whole thing, I was looking at things where things were increasing significantly, but then the
But
numbers.
then it looked like 4%. Yes. But it's
Yeah,
not.
well,
Yes.
it looks like insurance is going up 72%, but you said in the narrative that it was going down. And so that's why I
Oh.
was confused, for instance.
Yes. Yeah, I have some formatting issues. Budget. Hang on, let me just fix this one so you can see it, and then I will fix all of them for governing board. Okay.
Right. Okay. Yeah, so that's helpful.
Yes, and it is almost certainly like that on all of the pages. So I will finish fixing that.
Okay.
Is it helpful or just too much to have the 2021 budget as well? I was going to take these two out, but I can leave the budget in if you'd like to see the trend.
I like seeing the trend. I agree that there's way too many columns at this point,
Yes,
but I would still maybe hide those, but
I'll hide them for now.
because there are some things that were artificially lower or higher last year. So it's nice to be able to go back an extra year.
Yeah, it's
Got
nice
it.
to see the history, and we can always hide the columns if we need to.
Okay. Keep. Were there other questions on this, Catherine? We did see the email that you sent. Did you want to speak to that? Sorry, Mick, I'm
That's fine.
jumping over.
You know, I just shared it because I think there's a lot of anxiety around salaries, and you know, I thought it was a nice piece because it showed that it just shows that from an intellectual honesty perspective, if you gave your people more than 1.4%, or in 2016, if you gave your people more than 0.9, you were thinking about something other than tying your salaries only to CPI. So that's why I'm using it with my staff. So we have a merit system, so it's a little different, but I just found that exercise helpful. So if you've been kind of consistently at 2.5 for the last 10 years, your staff has actually beaten CPI up until this year. So I just found it interesting. My concern is always, can we afford next year? Like, you know, because we're running numbers. What are you baking in that you got to deal with next year? And that I do a 5-year, I do 5 years this way and 5 years that way when I do budget. So I try and anticipate what the pain point's going to be 1 year, 2 years out. That's all.
I found it really interesting. I appreciate you sharing that. We haven't had any complaints at my library about that at all. People even bringing up the CPI stuff. So it's interesting. But yeah, I thought that was fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, it's so easy right now because there's just so much hysteria around inflation and all of this. And, you know, I was talking to my husband last night because it cost me $71 to fill my car up. And he said, it cost you $71 under President George W. Bush too. You just don't remember because that was 12 years ago. I'm like, thank you for that happy note. Pour me a drink.
Yeah. Is there any other questions or thoughts around the budget? I felt like Rebecca's did a very good job listening to us the last time we talked and incorporating all this, percentages aside.
Yeah.
Does somebody else have a question? Can we go to the membership fees then?
Okay. So I have the summary page here. And we do see, I'm jumping to OCLC. Again, we have a lot of columns, but I can hide some. I wanted to show the two different 3-year averages because we did see a lot of changes this year to last year in the collections budgets reported. And I think that was for a couple of reasons. One is I think we were able to provide some clearer documentation on what spending we were asking you to include. So I think some folks, over or underreported in previous years. And then, in talking with, I did reach out to the libraries that had kind of some of the biggest jumps, and they were like, oh yeah, our spending really changed for various reasons. I haven't heard back from everyone yet, notably Algonquin over here, like, ooh, holy smokes. But I wanted to show the difference in the 3-year averages. So even where someone did see a huge increase or a huge decrease, it's reflected, but not a straight like doubling of someone's fees for OCLC. And again, this is specific to OCLC.
And the OCLC rates might change once we hear more from Warren Newport.
Yes, and the OCLC total here is an estimate just based on a 4% increase from last year. We haven't been getting the OCLC actual amount until May. So these numbers would change, but the proportion would be consistent. With membership, we didn't really see, we see like a little bit of ups and downs as folks income has changed a little bit. Jeannie, actually, you see kind of a weird bump here because the debt payment schedule won't like be plopped in for you until next year. I mean, I have it, but just the dates that we're looking at, that'll come up next year. So again, I thought sharing the previous and current adjusted incomes that we're looking at could just help someone understand, why a change was as big or as smaller as it was.
No, that made sense. I had a question about the debt.
Yes.
My library is going to probably pay off its debt early, like pay $5 million off in 2026. So we have lots of time to prepare. What does that do? Like if we pay $5 million of debt, does that lower our income by 5 million? Or do we just do the 300,000 that we have our debt? And imagine that's not something we've faced before. And I'm not trying to get out of, having have a CCS pay me for a year. That's not my intention, but.
Yeah, let me pull this document up just so you can kind of see what's cooking in the background. I think we could address it in a couple different ways. I think we could just leave the schedule kind of as is if you're still going to be paying the same total amount. So I have here listed out all the payments by date for all the libraries based on the schedules they've submitted to me. And then this page just kind of sorts them into CCS fiscal years and totals them up. So we can see Lake Villa has payments from 2017 to 2047. So if in 2026 you were going to pay like all of this, like maybe we'd want to spread it over a few years. We could look at it.
No, that makes sense. I mean, it wouldn't be all of that. That's the reason to pay it off. So we don't pay the 4% interest or 5%,
Yeah.
whatever we're paying on that. So we can just, it'll be a lot, instead of like 7 million, it'll be, or 6 million, it'll be 5 million. So
Yeah.
that's why we want to pay it off, to get out from under that interest payment.
Yeah,
But,
I mean, I think it might make sense to smooth it over a few years, just because again, we don't want to see you have a huge decrease in fees one year and then a big increase the next. So we can do some estimates, as Catherine said, do some 5-year planning on that to
Yeah.
see what it could look like.
That makes sense to me. That was just curiosity.
Yeah, so this is, again, I think it's helpful to see this. This is the spreadsheet I have in the background, and then I just pull out the 3 years we're looking at each year and go from there. So the nice thing about this is I don't have to like do it every year. It's just if someone makes a change, we come in and do an update, but we really haven't had changes. Like ELA finished paying their debt, but it just dropped off because that's how it's set up. So yeah, happy to work with you on that, Mick, when we get to that point. And I think probably run it past this committee, whether or not you're on it at this time, to see what makes sense.
That makes sense. Any other questions about the budget or member fees? If anyone feels ready to make a motion, please do so.
Oh, wait,
Oh.
sorry. I just wanted to draw everyone's attention. I know we talked about it in the narrative, but there is an increase in the development fund rebate for this fiscal budgeted in, and I would just ask that we put that in the motion, and I just dropped a sample in the chat, just because we'd like it to be clear for the auditor that we had approval, a recommendation and approval to increase the amount.
Do you want to do that on agenda item number 7 when we're talking about the development fund?
To do a separate motion
Well,
total, that's fine.
but we have the development fund as an action item and agenda item 7. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, so the development item, or number 7, is to review and approve the list of items for the development. This is specifically changing a budgeted item for this year from 48,000 to 180,000.
Okay, that makes sense. We can.
Yeah.
Thanks for putting that motion up for whomever. Does that make sense, everybody? We're going to increase how much we pay back to libraries because CCS didn't use all the money. And we want to keep it within the Rosenthal ratio of 150 to 75%.
It
like the
makes sense to
Rosenthal.
me, but because the motion sort of refers to 2 different budget years, I would feel more comfortable if it was 2 separate motions, because one is amending an already approved budget. To me, I don't know how other people feel. But hearing no objections, I will make an motion to increase the FY 21-22 development fund rebate to governing board by an amount that Rebecca is about to state.
Can we give the total amount? So it totals $181,972.
Okay, increase it to the amount of $181,972.
Thank you. Can we have a second?
Second, Jim from Round Lake.
We have a roll call vote on that, please.
Okay, I'll start with Dilger,
Yes.
Dombrowski,
Yes.
Jacobson,
Yes.
Limmer,
Yes.
Rosenthal,
Yes.
Austin,
Yes.
and Wiedenack.
Yes.
If we could have a motion for the approving the budget and membership fees.
I will make that motion. Jim from Round Lake.
Thank you, Jim. Could I have a second, please?
Second, Jeannie.
Thank you, Ginny. Any more discussion before we vote? Okay, hearing none, let's go ahead and Beth, if you could do another roll call vote, please.
This time I'll start with Jacobson,
Yes.
Slimmer,
Yes.
Rosenthal,
Yes.
Austin,
Yes.
DiDonato,
Yes.
Bilger,
Yes.
and Dombrowski.
Yes.
Let's move on to the next agenda item, the development fund. Development fund list. Rebecca? You're muted, Rebecca.
Thank you. We do have to review and update or approve our development fund potential uses every year. I did add in here that what our goal is, just so we have it. So changes from last year is I removed the CCS web redesign because it has been completed. And then I updated this office space relocation and expense. I firmly hope that it does not actually cost $75,000. Because it's development and we don't have to bill libraries for it, I'd rather just have it, it's in the budget, and I'd rather just, kind of earmark it for that at this time. And then we still have as potential work, open source development, which could include recruiting, basically hiring a contract developer to help us with any projects that we're working on. So that could be an analytics tool, expanding on the work that we're doing with Tableau, or it could be, if things do not go the way we want with the Vega program, looking at open source PAC situation, or something else. Jeannie?
Yeah, I had a question, and this is probably because I'm still relatively new. So I wasn't aware of the plan for an office space relocation. Is that a definite plan? Is that just sort of a backup plan? Is there a reason for that?
Oh yeah. So our office lease is up in August of 2023. We currently have about twice as much square footage as we need, because in 2015, we were like 15 staff members, and then there was a reorganization. So we have a lot of square footage that is not set up in the most usable way for us. So you'll get a thorough update at governing board. But we talked with executive committee 2 meetings ago, and we will be looking at new office space in the same area, just on the other side of Lake Cook Road for some tax reasons. And we'll be looking for space that has small meeting space in our office, and then has access to a conferencing center to hold, so we could hold larger meetings in a centralized space. And then we're looking at options. We're working with a real estate agent. Costs that are not included here would be like a build out of the space, because at this time, the real estate agent says that is almost 100% covered with lease concessions and things of that nature. So again, there's a potential overlap of lease here. We can't break our lease early. We even have talked to the building about a buyout, and they're like, no, thanks. So this just gives us a little cushion if we need it.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Anything else about the development fund? Any questions? All right. What motion did you need from us for this? Just like to accept this,
Yeah, to accept the list.
the updated list?
Yeah.
Okay, would somebody be comfortable making that motion? Once Rebecca writes it for us.
Oh.
Oh, I thought you were writing. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
no, I just deleted the part that said draft, since it seems like.
This is Jeannie. I will move approval of the development fund list.
Lauren, second.
Thank you. Beth, please.
Let's start with, we'll start back to Austin.
Yes.
Not creative anymore. DiDonato. Sorry, Jim, I'll come back to Jim. Dilger,
Yes.
Yes.
did I hear you, Jim? Donato?
Yes.
Yes. Sorry, thank
Yeah,
you.
it's okay.
Dombrowski,
Yes.
Jacobson,
Yes.
Lemmer,
Yes.
and Rosenthal.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Next item is bank services and fees proposal review.
So a quick summary, we've been a little bit talking on and off about this. With interest rates so low, our monthly fees with the bank are becoming very apparent. I have to keep reminding myself that they're fees for service, for specific services, which is like the lockbox and positive pay and other things, not just like having a bank account. Because it just, I don't know, it's a thing. I like to pay the bank. So we have reached out to a few, we're currently banking with Inland. We've reached out to a few different banks. And the proposals that they sent were available to you, but I don't expect that you've read them all. Essentially, the short story is that it would be less expensive for us to stay with Inland than to make any other changes. However, we have been having some like on and off service issues with Inland essentially since I started. So at this time, we would like to recommend that we work to change to Wintrust by the start of the fiscal year. Beth, do you want to speak briefly to the service issues we've been having and some of the things we've done to try to resolve them?
Sure. We definitely started to see some issues with the lockbox timed with COVID in particular, where we just were not receiving the documentation in a timely manner. So a couple of times we ran into deadline issues with processing month end. So there's been a lot of hand holding with trying to get the information from them. We have repeatedly asked about increasing the access that we would maybe have to be able to go on and get the deposit material, like myself, just to expedite the process. And there really hasn't been an opportunity for that. So they've tried to change their processes internally. And I think that's where some of the issues are. And they were having staffing issues, which I think is common with COVID, but it's just been like pulling teeth to get the deposit information. And then oftentimes their own internal reconciliation at the end of the month was not accurate. So I was like kind of double checking and having to go back to them and confirm to make sure we were getting all of the deposits and reminding them to send us deposits. So we had asked about updating like the service level agreement. They had promised to be getting the paperwork to us within like the next business day, and that just wasn't happening, and it just had gotten worse. So that was the main issues that we've been having with the deposits.
So we are looking as cost savings and to move from lockbox to remote capture, which is using the scanner in the office and sending things. So we would have a cost savings there that would put a little bit more work on CCS staff, specifically Beth and me, which is fine. But I would still have concerns that just sort of the general like service and troubleshooting issues would continue to be a problem with Inland. One more, I did kind of a second summary of the bank stuff, just focusing on Wintrust and Inland. If we look, so Inland has us on an analysis account, and then Wintrust has us kind of on basic business. So with Inland, we would have the earnings credit, whereas with Wintrust, we'd have interest, and the interest rates, as you all know, are not great right now, but I have to think they would improve in the future, and that we would get more than $14 a month in interest. These monthly fees are specific for remote capture. Another point of consideration that doesn't come through in kind of the straight comparison is that if the Wintrust credit card option includes 1.5% cash back on all purchases, which based on last calendar year spending would be $15 a month. which would then kind of make up for the cost difference in the monthly service fees outside of a potential increase in interest. So, I mean, both banks offer the same services. With both banks, they'd be fully collateralized. Really, at this point, it's that I feel like I talk about the bank all the time. Like Beth and I have a lot of conversations about like, oh, have we heard from the bank? Have we gotten this update? Have we done this thing? And I feel like banking is a thing that should just work. And perhaps there's something we could, outside of, you know, Beth continuing to call our account rep all the time, maybe it's time to just try another relationship.
Well, I can speak to, so we banked with Inland Bank at the Ela Library, and we bank with Wintrust via the Wellness Insurance Network, and I'm the treasurer at Win. And I would move to switch from Inland Bank to Wintrust. I'll be happy to make that motion.
That's an impassioned motion.
I mean, everything you're describing, Beth, about, you know, pulling teeth for documentation and errors on the deposits. I mean, we had a check clear that was never written by our institution. It was somebody else's check, who knows, but yeah, so
Wow.
yeah.
We've had a few of those too, now that you've mentioned it.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
there's
this is
some
just
things
the
you think,
current round of
there's some things
issues.
the thing that really got me, the kicker for me, was you couldn't always go and have them make change. And anyone that's ever seen Saturday Night Live, right? Remember there was an old routine.
We make change.
Right? That's the only thing the bank did. And Inland can't even do that. So yeah.
Where's are you changing Ela's banking then? Where are you guys going?
Well, right now we're still with Inland because the treasury liaison got involved, right? Because they don't want to lose, you know, well-funded government accounts. And so they have really done a 180 when we had the sort of meeting of, you know, you can't even make change. I mean, that really was the ending for me. But they have been great since then. So I'm on, you know, it's like 6 months of, are you kidding me? And 6 months of, yeah, you know, and it's such a hassle to change. You know, you've got multiple accounts, and, you know, it's not something you take lightly. So the fact that Beth and Rebecca are at the point where they're making the recommendation to change, I get it. I'm not quite there yet for Ela, but I can understand how you get there.
We have a motion from Lauren. Does anybody want to give a second?
This
I'll
is
second. Or
Oh, Monica beat you,
have
Anthony.
it.
Sorry.
Monica can have it.
Yeah. Okay. Any more discussion about this? Yes, Catherine.
Sorry, I hate spring. This is allergies. Like one day over 45 degrees and I'm just flat out allergy. I just didn't know if I had to not vote or declare conflict of interest because we bank with Wintrust. I don't know.
I would say if you were able to be to take your experience, because one of the reasons we're all on here is because we have various experiences, good and bad. So using Lauren's example of her negative experiences with Inland helps inform this decision. So if you've had positive experiences with Wintrust or negative experiences with Wintrust, I think that's good information for you to share so we can make a better decision. So I don't think you need to abstain, but if you feel that you need to abstain, that's up to you.
No, I'm just not always so good on all the rules, so I try and double check. No, we
No,
have.
I mean, for me, Catherine, it's, do you stand to gain a financial advantage if we vote for Wintrust? And you do not, and neither does Lake Forest Library. So you
They
should
might
be-
bring me a fruit basket. You never know. It is Lake Forest.
Well, if they bring you one, I want one too, because I'm also a customer.
Yeah, we don't
Okay,
get
no,
anything like
we
that
don't have
either.
any problems, but you know, we don't have the level of transactions that many of you have because we don't collect fines. We don't do any ACH. So we're pretty simple in and
Yeah.
out kind of people.
Were you gonna say something, Jim? Or was that Anthony? I'm sorry.
Thank
I
you,
just-
Anne.
Oh, Anthony, were you gonna say something?
No, I mean, we bank with Wintrust as well, so yeah. And
We do too at Round Lake. For what it's worth, I'll be voting yes on the motion. I have no issue voting for them.
All right, is there any other discussion? Beth, would you please do roll call?
Start with Rosenthal,
Yes.
Austin,
yes,
DiDonato,
Yes.
Bilger,
Yes.
Dombrowski,
Yes.
Jacobson,
Yes.
and Limmer.
Yes.
All right. 2:08, at this point, I am going to adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everybody. I think this is the last meeting I'm hosting, right, Rebecca, as the chair?
Yeah, I don't think we have any business that we need to do unless governing board sends something back to us, which has not happened yet, so.
Well, let's hope that doesn't happen. It's been a pleasure being the chair of this committee. If any of you decide you want to be the chair of this committee, I could tell you, there's Rebecca, it's tough, not just kidding. Rebecca and Beth do all the work, which makes life so much better, just like we do for our treasurers.
That's true.
So if anyone you're interested, there's going to be a call in the near future for people who would like to be on the, there's I think 3 seats coming open on the executive board. So if anybody is interested, wait, keep your eye out. Sarah Murray will send out that call in the near future. Thanks,
Thank you,
everybody.
Mick. You've been an excellent treasurer.
Yeah, well, you've made it very easy.
All right.
Bye,
Thanks,
everybody.
everyone.
Bye, everyone.